All right, the country is still on edge right now, waiting for the final results in the presidential election.
Everybody wants to know how much longer is it going to take for everything to be tallied up. Well, let's get a little insight into this. We're joined by Dr. Stephen Maynard Caliendo, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at North Central College. So glad you're back. What are you thinking at this point? I mean, you've been patiently watching. Where do you think we are?
Yeah, I'm watching along with everybody else. We're moving quickly. I think one of the wonderful things about this, I mean, it's hard to say there's a lot of wonderful things because it's anxiety-inducing, but the cameras that are catching the people who are working so hard to sort and count ballots, that's an invisible thing that happens every single election season that people do, and shows how much the people really care about our democracy. And they're moving it along more quickly than I expected, in fact.
Even in places like Nevada, where there's been a lot of whining, like kids in the backseat of a car, Dad, when are we going to be there? When are we going to be there? What do you feel like is up in Nevada? Are they going too slow, or is this kind of standard given the circumstances?
Good question about Nevada. It is, that one's going slower than the others, and it seems like it's been stalled out for the last couple of days. Everything's different this time, though. Remember that they're dealing with a different mass, a different volume rather, and they're dealing with different types of balloting, and so and add to that the stress of the threat of lawsuits, which is always implicit, but now it's being very explicit on the part of the Trump campaign in particular, and that all eyes are on them. So it is hard to be patient with Nevada in particular, because it seems like they had a higher percentage counted than Pennsylvania, for instance, which we knew was going to take a number of days to finish.
And let's talk about that Pennsylvania vote right now. There's a lot of ballots that they're taking extra close look at. Of course, the election officials there are urging patience. Give me an idea of what you think is happening in Pennsylvania specifically, because that is such an important state right now.
Yeah, it's always the case. Remember, the decision in Pennsylvania was to allow any ballot that was postmarked by Election Day to count up to 3 days after the election, to leave time for the delays that I think we've all experienced with the Postal Service. And it's always the case that that there's going to be ballots that have to have additional scrutiny. And that's typically where you have somebody, a watcher from both parties and even an independent, looking and deciding whether a ballot should be accepted. But if it's not that close, even though that process happens, people aren't watching it that close, and it doesn't feel like it matters that much. But because this is so close and because it's so consequential, every one of those ballots, it feels like all the weight is on the folks who are making those decisions.
Dr. Stephen Caliendo, as always, we appreciate your time this afternoon, sir. Thank you.
It's good to see you both.